Welcome to today's video. A shocking twist has just emerged in the case surrounding Gene Hackman. A neighbor living near his home has changed their testimony after weeks of silence. This unexpected revelation has not only prompted the police to reopen the case, but has also sent shockwaves through the public. What caused this neighbor to break their silence now? Has the truth been hidden all along? Let's dive into the latest developments in this mysterious case. The Haunting Mansion. Unsettling mysteries surrounding Gene Hackman's home. When investigators entered Gene Hackman's sprawling 9,000-square-foot mansion, they immediately sensed something was off. The eerie silence was almost suffocating, with every footstep echoing unnaturally through the vast, empty halls. What was once the home of a Hollywood legend now felt like an abandoned relic, frozen in time. The furniture remained undisturbed, as if Hackman had never left, but the atmosphere carried an unshakable heaviness, an invisible presence that made everyone feel like they were intruding on something that wasn't meant to be seen. One of the most disturbing discoveries was the mysterious death of one of Hackman's 3 dogs. The animal was found lifeless near the back door, with no signs of injury or illness. It hadn't been attacked, nor was there any apparent cause of death. Yet, it lay there as if drained of life by an unseen force. This chilling detail only deepened the mystery surrounding Hackman's own passing. Was this just a tragic coincidence, or was there something far more sinister at play? As investigators searched each room, they found more anomalies that defied explanation. Several lights remained on, even though Hackman had died days earlier. Unopened letters stacked on the table as if he had forgotten they existed. But the strangest discovery was a stopped clock hanging on the wall, its hands frozen on February 18th, the exact date medical examiners estimated Hackman had passed. Was this just a strange coincidence, or was there an eerie significance to it? Visitors who had been to the mansion before recalled an overwhelming sense of unease, as if they were being watched even when no one was there. Some of the investigators reported a gut-wrenching feeling of wrongness, not just the natural stillness of an empty house, but a sensation that something unseen still lingered. Scratches on doors, strange ticking sounds coming from dark corners, every element of the house added to the growing unease, making it hard to dismiss the possibility that something inexplicable was happening. Gene Hackman's mansion was meant to be his peaceful retreat, a sanctuary where he could live out his final years in solitude. Yet, after his passing, it became a place shrouded in mystery, filled with unanswered questions. Are these eerie occurrences simply tricks of the mind, or is there a deeper, darker truth hidden within its walls? Hackman's death left the world stunned, but perhaps the house he left behind holds the answers no one has yet uncovered. Gene Hackman, a life of seclusion in his Santa Fe retreat. After stepping away from Hollywood, Gene Hackman chose a life of quiet solitude, far removed from the industry that had defined much of his career. Unlike many of his contemporaries who remained in the public eye, Hackman made a clean break, retreating to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, built a peaceful life together. Their 9,000-square-foot estate became a sanctuary, a place where Hackman could finally live on his own terms, away from the noise and expectations of Hollywood. Hackman's Santa Fe home is more than just a residence. It's a reflection of his desire for privacy and tranquility. Nestled within the vast, untouched landscapes of New Mexico, the property offers complete seclusion, with high walls and long, winding pathways that keep the outside world at bay. Unlike many retired actors who maintain ties to the industry, Hackman embraced his quiet existence, choosing personal fulfillment over public recognition. He had no interest in attending award ceremonies or staying in the spotlight. His focus was entirely on the life he had built beyond the camera. His life in Santa Fe wasn't about escaping, but about intentional living. Hackman dedicated his days to reading, painting, and writing novels, a passion he had nurtured even during his time in Hollywood. Without the pressures of film schedules and media appearances, he could finally immerse himself in creative pursuits on his own terms. The absence of Hollywood's relentless pace allowed him to appreciate life's quieter joys, far from the constant scrutiny of fans and the press. His relationship with his wife, Betsy Arakawa, also reflected the simplicity and intimacy of the life they built together. They never sought media attention or public appearances, choosing instead to live a life centered around each other. While many celebrity couples continue to engage with Hollywood long after retirement, Hackman and Betsy prioritized genuine companionship over maintaining an image. Their happiness wasn't found in industry events or public adoration, but in quiet evenings at home and the peaceful rhythm of everyday life. Though Hackman left Hollywood behind, his legacy remains. But what makes him truly remarkable is his ability to step away without looking back, never chasing the spotlight, never seeking validation. Instead, he found fulfillment in solitude, proving that a life well lived doesn't require fame or public approval. In the end, his greatest achievement wasn't just his legendary film career, it was his decision to walk away and embrace a life of peace, far from the stage he once commanded. The mysterious death of Betsy Arakawa. A case that raises more questions than answers. The discovery of Betsy Arakawa's lifeless body in the bathroom of her Santa Fe home sent shockwaves through those who knew her. Pills used to treat thyroid conditions were scattered across the floor, a haunting detail that suggested desperation, or something far more sinister. The official cause of death was listed as hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, a rare and deadly respiratory illness. Yet one glaring contradiction stood out. There were no signs of rodents or their droppings anywhere in the house. This crucial inconsistency has left many questioning whether the explanation given was the full truth, or if something much darker lurked beneath the surface. HPS is primarily contracted through exposure to rodent urine, droppings, or saliva, making the circumstances of Betsy's diagnosis highly unusual. Santa Fe, like many parts of New Mexico, has had cases of hantavirus in the past, but for someone like Betsy, who lived in a meticulously maintained home with no visible entry points for rodents, the official explanation felt questionable. Investigators searched the property for any signs of contamination, but found nothing. No nests, no feces, no dead rodents. If HPS was the cause, then how did she contract it? And if she didn't, why was this the conclusion reached? The scattered thyroid medication added another disturbing layer to the case. Betsy had long been prescribed these pills for an underlying condition, but the manner in which they were found, strewn across the bathroom floor, seemed out of place. Some speculated it was a sign of distress, an attempt to reach for medication in her final moments. Others, however, viewed it as something more calculated. Could it have been staged? Was there another hand involved in the scene? Given the contradictions in the case, doubts surrounding the true cause of Betsy's death only grew stronger. Adding to the mystery, the days leading up to Betsy's death had been marked by unsettling behavior. She had withdrawn from public view, a stark change for someone who, while private, still maintained some level of interaction with the outside world. Neighbors who once saw her running errands or taking short walks near the property had not spotted her in weeks. Gene Hackman, known for his own reclusive tendencies, had also retreated further into solitude during this period. Had Betsy fallen ill without realizing it? Or was she aware of something that led her to distance herself from those around her? With so many unanswered questions, Betsy's death remains a haunting mystery. If hantavirus was indeed the cause, why was there no physical evidence of exposure in her environment? And if it wasn't, then what really happened that night in the bathroom? Was it a medical tragedy, a tragic accident, or something more sinister? The contradictions and eerie details of the case continue to fuel speculation, leaving the world wondering. Was Betsy's death simply an unfortunate coincidence? Or was there a hidden truth still waiting to be uncovered? Gene Hackman, a legendary legacy and unanswered mysteries. Gene Hackman left behind an undeniable legacy, an illustrious film career spanning over 4 decades, filled with unforgettable roles and critically acclaimed performances. He was not just a Hollywood icon, but a true artist, one who willingly stepped away from the spotlight to live life on his own terms. Yet, that very solitude has made his passing a haunting mystery. When the stage lights dimmed, Hackman was no longer the star of gripping cinematic dramas. He became the central figure in a real-life tragedy, surrounded by unanswered questions and unsettling details. His lonely death has reignited a deeper conversation about isolation in the world of fame. Once celebrated worldwide, Hackman spent his final years in near-complete seclusion, without family by his side, without grand tributes, and without the warmth of companionship in his last days. It raises an unsettling question. Does fame truly bring happiness? Or is it merely an illusion that leads to isolation and an unceremonious end? For a man who had once been revered by millions, his silent departure feels eerily distant from the grandeur of his cinematic legacy. Adding to the mystery are the disturbing, unexplained factors surrounding his death. What truly caused his rapid decline? Was it simply age and illness, or was it something more sinister? Neglect, abandonment, or even an undetected condition? Did Betsy Arakawa's sudden death play a larger role in the unraveling of events than previously thought? His once tranquil Santa Fe mansion, meant to be a place of peace, has now become a scene filled with unsettling anomalies. Lights left on through the night, the mysterious death of one of his 3 dogs, and the haunting fact that his body went undiscovered for days. Each detail only adds to the growing uncertainty surrounding his final moments. But the biggest question remains: will the full truth ever be revealed? Was Hackman's death merely the natural end to a life of isolation, or is there more to the story that has yet to come to light? Hollywood has seen its share of unsolved tragedies, and Gene Hackman's passing may be yet another mystery destined to remain in the shadows. His cinematic legacy will endure, but the haunting nature of his final days lingers, leaving the world to wonder. Are we missing a crucial piece of the puzzle? Or will Gene Hackman take the truth with him into eternity? Gene Hackman's final days. A legend. Lost in isolation. The final days of Gene Hackman were a heartbreaking contrast to the legendary career he left behind. A man once celebrated on the silver screen, now fading away in complete solitude. After the mysterious death of his wife, Betsy Arakawa, Hackman became utterly lost, trapped in the fog of advanced Alzheimer's disease. His grasp on reality weakened, his connection to the world slipping away. But the most devastating part was that he had no one by his side. No family, no friends, no one to pull him back from the depths of loneliness and confusion. Neighbors who occasionally caught glimpses of Hackman after Betsy's passing all recalled the same haunting image: a frail, disoriented man, wandering aimlessly inside his vast, empty home. Gone were the routines he had once held on to, the morning walks, the quiet afternoons spent reading and painting. The sprawling house he had once cherished had become a prison, its silent hallways echoing with a profound emptiness. No one knew how long he drifted in this isolation before it became too late. When Betsy was alive, she was his anchor, the only link keeping him tethered to a structured life. She helped him maintain a sense of normalcy, even as Alzheimer's gradually eroded his memories. But after her sudden death, everything unraveled. Hackman stopped eating, stopped drinking, stopped calling for help. Perhaps he forgot that he needed to, or maybe, deep down, he no longer had the will to continue. A man who once commanded the screen with strength and power was now a shadow of himself, abandoned to a fate he could neither control nor understand. What makes Hackman's passing even more tragic is the absolute silence that surrounded him in his final days. There was no one to hold his hand, no one to remind him to take a sip of water or eat a bite of food. He simply faded away, alone in the same house that had once been filled with warmth and love. No one can say for sure what was going through his mind in those final hours. Did he sense the end approaching? Or had his disease erased the very concept of time, leaving him trapped in a world of fading memories? Fans will always remember Gene Hackman as a Hollywood icon, a man whose performances left a lasting imprint on film history. But when the lights dimmed, when the cameras stopped rolling, he was left with nothing but silence. Not applause, not accolades, just the quiet, lonely passage of time. And perhaps the greatest tragedy of all was not his death itself, but the fact that he faced it alone, with no one left to say goodbye. Unanswered questions and theories. The mystery surrounding Gene Hackman's death. The shocking circumstances of Gene Hackman's death have left more questions than answers. How could a Hollywood legend waste away in solitude, suffering from malnutrition in his own home? The strange details surrounding his final days have given rise to several theories, ranging from carbon monoxide poisoning to a misdiagnosis of Betsy Arakawa's illness, to the unsettling possibility that Hackman was deliberately abandoned. While the official cause of death was listed as exhaustion and starvation, many believe the truth is far more complex than what has been publicly revealed. One of the most alarming theories is the possibility that carbon monoxide poisoning played a role in both Hackman and Betsy's deteriorating health. This invisible, odorless gas can cause symptoms that mimic Alzheimer's, such as confusion, memory loss, and extreme fatigue. If a malfunctioning heating system or poor ventilation led to prolonged exposure, Hackman and Betsy could have been unknowingly inhaling toxic levels of carbon monoxide for weeks or even months. This could explain Hackman's rapid physical and mental decline before his death. But if this was the case, why wasn't the house tested for dangerous gas levels? Another theory focuses on the mysterious death of Betsy, who was officially diagnosed with hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, despite no evidence of rodent activity in their home. Could she have been misdiagnosed? If she died from a different cause, did Hackman know the truth? And more importantly, could her death have contributed to Hackman's own rapid downfall? Some believe Hackman may have sensed something was wrong, but was too mentally impaired to act. Or worse, he was too weak to fight back. If a medical mistake was made in Betsy's case, who was responsible? And was the real cause of her death covered up? Perhaps the most disturbing question is this: was Gene Hackman abandoned on purpose? After Betsy's death, Hackman was left in a vulnerable state, physically frail and mentally declining due to advanced Alzheimer's. Yet, instead of being cared for, he was left completely alone in his massive estate. No one checked on him, no one called, and no one seemed to notice his absence until it was far too late. Was this simply neglect, or was it something more deliberate? If Hackman was intentionally left to waste away, who stood to gain the most from his death? With so many unanswered questions, Hackman's passing remains shrouded in mystery. Carbon monoxide poisoning, a possible misdiagnosis of Betsy's illness, and the chilling idea that he was abandoned are all compelling theories, but none have been definitively proven. A Hollywood legend is gone, but the circumstances of his death continue to haunt those seeking the truth. Will we ever uncover what really happened? Or will the mystery of Gene Hackman's final days remain buried forever? Gene Hackman and the strange signs before tragedy. Warnings no one noticed. In the weeks leading up to the tragic event, eerie signs began to emerge around Gene Hackman's secluded Santa Fe home. His daily routines, unchanged for years, suddenly shifted, raising silent alarms among those who knew him. Yet no one could have predicted that these subtle disruptions were possible warnings of something far more serious. It was only after tragedy struck that people started piecing the events together, questioning whether Hackman had sensed something was coming before the world caught on. One of the most unsettling signs was Hackman's abrupt departure from his long-standing daily habits. For years, he had a simple yet unwavering routine: morning walks around his vast estate, quiet afternoons reading or painting, and the occasional visit to local cafes where he engaged in brief but familiar conversations. But then he stopped. Days passed without anyone seeing him outside. His usual presence at his favorite spots vanished, leaving neighbors puzzled. It was as if he had deliberately withdrawn, retreating further into the privacy he had always fiercely guarded. Even more disturbing was the fact that the lights inside Hackman's 9,000-square-foot home remained on throughout the night. Normally, he adhered to a steady schedule, embracing the peace and quiet of Santa Fe's desert nights. But now, the house was illuminated at odd hours, casting an eerie glow against the vast darkness of the landscape. Passers-by couldn't help but notice. Someone inside was staying up, restless, consumed by something unseen. The image of his home, bathed in unnatural light, stood as a silent but ominous message, one that no one could fully understand until it was too late. Adding to the mystery was the sudden disappearance of his wife, Betsy Arakawa, from public view. Though private by nature, Betsy was still seen occasionally, running errands, taking quiet strolls near their property, engaging in brief but friendly interactions with those in their small circle. But in the weeks before the tragedy, she vanished. No sightings, no casual greetings, nothing. The absence was stark, and in hindsight, deeply unsettling. What had kept her inside? Had she known something others didn't? And if so, why hadn't anyone asked questions sooner? Were these occurrences mere coincidences, or were they warning signs that went unnoticed? Did Hackman sense an impending threat, but choose to keep it to himself? And what about Betsy? Did she know something the rest of the world didn't? The answers remain lost in the shadows, but one thing is certain. The strange events leading up to Hackman's final days now feel less like random changes and more like echoes of a tragedy waiting to unfold. Thank you for watching today's video. The unexpected change in testimony from Gene Hackman's neighbor has raised more questions than answers. Could this be the missing piece in the mystery? Or is it just adding to the confusion? Is the truth finally coming to light? Or are there still secrets waiting to be uncovered? What do you think about these latest developments? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's discuss. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. so you don't miss any future updates. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.